The sound of the slap reverberated through the reception hall like a gunshot. 200 conversations halted mid-sentence. The string quartet's melody fractured into silence. My carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the scarlet handprint blooming across my cheek as I tasted copper where my lip had split against my teeth. "You selfish little brat," my father hissed, his face contorted with rage, champagne fumes thick on his breath. "After everything we've done for you—" I watched the scene as if floating above it, the shocked wedding guests in their finery. My mother's mortified expression focused more on the spectacle than my injury, and most revealing, my brother Noel's satisfied smirk from the head table. His new wife, Grace's eyes gleamed with triumph beside him. "My name is Victoria. I'm 29 and a software developer. This is the story of how I turned public humiliation into perfect freedom. The penthouse they wanted me to surrender was my sanctuary. 1,800 square feet of floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, purchased with money I'd earned working 60-hour weeks for 3 years while Noel cycled through failed business ventures. These were funded by our parents' seemingly bottomless generosity. Your brother needs a proper home to start his family," my mother had insisted minutes earlier, cornering me by the dessert table. "You're just one person, Victoria. Be reasonable." "No," I'd replied, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "The penthouse is mine. I bought it. I pay for it. Noel and Grace can find their own place." That's when my father had stepped in, face flushed from too much champagne and decades of unquestioned authority. "This isn't a request, Victoria. Your brother is the man of the family now." The man of the family, of course. Even after Noel's cryptocurrency startup had imploded spectacularly last month, taking his investors' money with it, he remained the golden child. "The answer is still no," I'd replied, keeping my voice low. "And if you bring this up again, I'm leaving." That's when he slapped me. Now, standing in the shocked silence of the reception hall, I straightened my spine. I looked my father directly in the eye and smiled. Something in that smile made him take a half step back. "You'll regret this," I said, my voice carrying in the silence. "All of you will." I turned and walked out, heels clicking against marble like a metronome counting down to retribution. Behind me, whispers erupted like fire through dry brush. My mother called after me, not concerned about my well-being, but about what the country club members would say. In my car, I finally released the tears, but they weren't born of sadness. A lifetime of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who never asked for handouts. And this was my reward? Public humiliation because I wouldn't surrender my home to my freeloading brother? My phone vibrated with incoming messages. "Mom, come back inside. You're embarrassing us." Noelle, "Don't be dramatic, sis. We can talk about this." Grace, "Your brother deserves that penthouse more than you." Dad, "You will give Noel the keys tomorrow. This isn't a discussion." I switched off my phone and drove. Not home. I couldn't face the penthouse right now. Instead, I headed to the coffee shop where I'd spent countless hours coding and planning my future. My sanctuary before I could afford the penthouse. The barista, Kyle, took one look at my face and brought over my usual order without asking. "Bad day?" "My father slapped me at my brother's wedding because I wouldn't give them my penthouse," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Kyle's eyes widened. "Your penthouse? The one you worked 3 years of overtime to buy?" I nodded, sipping my coffee. "Apparently my brother needs it more than I do. He's the man of the family, after all." "That's insane," Kyle said, sliding a chocolate muffin across the table. "On the house, you look like you need it." As twilight painted the sky outside the cafe window, a plan crystallized in my mind. My family thought they could bully me into submission. They thought I'd surrender everything I'd worked for. They had no idea what I was capable of. I opened my laptop and began typing. Emails to my lawyer and financial advisor, code commits to my private GitHub repository, and finally a call to my real estate agent. "Remember that oceanfront property we discussed?" I asked when she answered. "I'm ready to make an offer." By the time I finished my coffee, the foundation of my revenge was laid. My family wanted to take my home? Let them try. But they were about to learn that the quiet, accommodating daughter they took for granted had vanished the moment my father's hand met my cheek. This was war, and I intended to win. The next morning, my parents showed up at my penthouse unannounced. My father stormed past the doorman, who'd already called to warn me they were coming. I met them at my door dressed in my best power suit, laptop in hand. "Where are you going?" my mother demanded as I locked my door. "We need to talk about what happened." "Work," I replied simply, walking past them toward the elevator. "Some of us actually have jobs." "Don't you dare take that tone," my father growled, grabbing my arm. "After your behavior yesterday—" I yanked my arm away, my voice ice cold. "Touch me again, and I'll have security escort you out. And yes, I have video of yesterday's assault. The country club's cameras caught everything." That stopped them both short. My mother's face paled. "You wouldn't." "Try me." The elevator arrived and I stepped in. "Oh, and change the locks all you want. I've already moved everything valuable to secure storage." The doors closed on their shocked faces. I waited until I was in my car before letting out a shaky breath. Phase 1 of my plan was in motion. Over the next week, I ignored their calls and messages, which grew increasingly hostile. Noel sent flying monkeys, mutual friends and relatives trying to reason with me. Grace posted passive-aggressive social media updates about selfish people who don't support family. I stayed silent and kept working. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for something like this for years. Not this exact scenario. I never expected my father to actually hit me. But I'd always known they'd try to take what was mine eventually. That's why I had receipts for everything. Every penny I'd earned, every bill I'd paid, every improvement I'd made to the penthouse. I had security cameras in every room, backup codes for every lock, and most importantly, I had leverage. You see, during those years of being the responsible daughter, I'd also been the family tech support. I'd set up everyone's computers, phones, and email accounts. I had access to everything, including Noel's business records. I had created backdoor admin accounts on all their devices years ago, and they'd never thought to change passwords or check for secondary access points. As their IT person, I'd kept copies of all access credentials. This gave me a window into Noel's business dealings even after he thought he'd secured his accounts. On day 10 of radio silence, my mother tried a new approach. She showed up at my office with tears in her eyes. "Your father is sorry," she said, settling uninvited into the chair across from my desk. "He was just upset. You know how he gets when he's worried about Noel." Worried about Noel? I kept typing, not looking up. Or worried about what Noel's investors might do when they find out where their money really went. Her sharp intake of breath told me I'd hit a nerve. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said carefully. "No?" I finally looked at her. "So you don't know about the offshore accounts? The shell companies? The consulting fees Noel paid to Dad's business?" The color drained from her face. "How did you—" "I'm very good at what I do, Mom. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when Noel used my old coding projects in his crypto startup that failed? The code had my digital signature embedded in it. I could trace exactly how he'd repurposed my work." "It wasn't a scam," she protested weakly. "He just made some mistakes." "Fraud isn't a mistake. It's a crime." I turned my laptop around, showing her the documents I'd compiled, and Dad helped him do it. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. "What do you want?" "I want to be left alone. No more demands, no more flying monkeys, no more social media drama. The penthouse is mine. End of discussion." "And if we refuse?" I smiled, the same smile I'd given them at the wedding. "Then these documents go to the SEC, along with the video of Dad assaulting me. I'm sure the investors would be very interested in where their money went." "You'd destroy your own family?" Her voice cracked. "You did that when you demanded I give up my home, when Dad hit me, when Noel smirked about it." I turned the laptop back around. "I'm done being the family doormat." She left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. They'd be angry, desperate even. But I had one more card to play. That evening, I received a call from my real estate agent. The oceanfront property, a luxury apartment complex I'd been eyeing for months, was mine. My tech career had been exceptionally lucrative, and I'd been investing carefully for years. I had built a portfolio that had grown substantial enough to secure financing for the property, the same complex where Noel and Grace had been hoping to rent their dream apartment. I logged into my private GitHub repository and pushed the final changes to my latest project, a property management system I'd been developing on the side. The same system Noel had tried to steal for his failed startup. My phone buzzed with a text from Noel. "Mom told me what you're doing. You can't prove anything." I smiled, sending back a single screenshot of his private server logs. His next message came quickly. "What do you want?" "Distance," I replied. "Complete and total. No contact, no demands, no family obligations. The penthouse and my life are off limits. And if I refuse, then I own your dream apartment complex, have proof of your financial misconduct, and enough documentation to bury both you and Dad. Your choice." The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before his response came through. "You've changed?" "No," I wrote back. "I just stopped pretending to be who you wanted me to be." I put my phone on silent and walked out onto my penthouse balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. The sun was setting on the family I'd known, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about finally, truly becoming yourself. 3 months after the wedding incident, I sat in my penthouse living room, sipping coffee and reviewing tenant applications for my oceanfront complex. The property was proving to be an excellent investment, especially after I implemented my management system. My phone buzzed with a notification. Noel and Grace had been evicted from their luxury rental after failing to pay rent for 2 months. I had set up automatic alerts for their unit in my property management system, so I received notifications about their payment status. I wasn't surprised. Without Dad's financial support, which had dried up since my revelations about their financial misconduct, they were finally facing reality. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Through the security camera, I saw my father standing there, looking older than I remembered. For a moment, I considered ignoring him, but curiosity won out. "What do you want?" I asked through the intercom. "5 minutes, Victoria, please." I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He stood there, shifting uncomfortably, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. "Noel and Grace are moving back home," he said finally. "The apartment. They couldn't afford it." "I know. I own the building." His head snapped up, eyes widening. "You? But how?" "Because I'm good at what I do, Dad. I always was. You just never noticed." He seemed to deflate, leaning against the doorframe. "Your mother misses you. We all do." "No," I corrected him. "You miss having someone to push around, someone to sacrifice everything for Noel. That person doesn't exist anymore." "I was wrong," he said quietly, "about everything. The slap, the demands, protecting Noel. I've lost everything because of it." It was true. After my threats of exposure, he'd been forced to step down from his company's board. I'd learned this through business contacts in my professional network, who forwarded me the press release about his early retirement. His reputation in the business community was in tatters, though I'd never actually released the documents. The threat had been enough. "You haven't lost everything," I said. "You still have your golden child. Isn't that what matters?" "Victoria, please. We're family." "Family?" I laughed. "Family doesn't demand someone give up their home. Family doesn't hit you in public. Family doesn't smirk while watching it happen." He flinched at each point, but I wasn't done. "You know what I realized after the wedding? I've never needed any of you. Every success I've had, every achievement, was in spite of you, not because of you." "I know," he whispered. "I know that now." I studied him. This man who'd loomed so large in my life, who'd seemed so powerful and intimidating. Now he just looked small. "5 minutes are up," I said, starting to close the door. "Wait." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "Your mother wanted you to have this. It's an invitation to her birthday dinner next week. We would really like you to come." I took the envelope but didn't open it. "I'll think about it." After he left, I sat on my balcony, turning the invitation over in my hands. Part of me wanted to throw it away to maintain the distance I'd worked so hard to establish, but another part, a stronger part, knew that true victory wasn't in perpetual estrangement. It was in having the power to choose my own terms. The following week, I did attend my mother's birthday dinner. I arrived late and left early, speaking little but observing much. Noel and Grace sat in sullen silence, their designer clothes replaced by department store brands. My father stayed sober, watching his words carefully. My mother tried too hard, her smile brittle with anxiety. They were all walking on eggshells, afraid of the power I now held. But I had no interest in wielding it like a weapon. Instead, I used it as a shield, protecting the life I'd built for myself. Over the following months, a new family dynamic emerged. They learned to respect my boundaries, to accept that I wouldn't be their safety net anymore. Noel and Grace found modest jobs and a small apartment they could actually afford. My father stayed involved but distant, sending occasional emails about business opportunities he thought might interest me. My mother took longer to adjust, still trying to play peacemaker, still hoping for the daughter she'd always wanted me to be. But eventually, she too learned to accept the woman I actually was. 1 year after the wedding, I hosted a small dinner party in my penthouse, not for family, but for the people who truly supported me. Kyle from the coffee shop, who'd given me space to plan my revenge over countless cups of coffee. He had since become my boyfriend after months of growing closer through regular coffee dates. My real estate agent, who'd helped me secure my newest investment. My lawyer, who'd protected my interests without question. As we enjoyed dinner on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the city gold, Kyle raised his glass. "To Victoria," he said, "who turned a slap into an empire." I smiled, thinking about how that moment of public humiliation had led to this, not just financial success, but true independence, the ability to set boundaries, to demand respect, to live life on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better, stronger, wiser. And sometimes it's about learning that the family you choose can be more valuable than the family you're born into. I raised my glass to join the toast, finally at peace with all of it. The slap, the demands, the aftermath. They had tried to take my home, but instead, they'd given me my freedom. And that was worth more than any penthouse. My relationship with my family would never return to what it was before. We maintained a distant formal connection with clear boundaries that they now respected. I'd forgiven them enough to allow limited contact, but would never again allow them the power to hurt me. That chapter was permanently closed. The words hit like physical blows as I stood in my childhood living room. My fingers dug into my palms, each nail creating a crescent-shaped indentation as I fought to keep my expression neutral. "We've already canceled the venue," my father declared, his voice carrying the same authoritative tone he used in board meetings. He dropped a manila folder onto the coffee table with a decisive thud. "The deposits are forfeited, but at least we're not throwing away the full amount." My mother sat rigid on the leather sofa, her lips pressed into that familiar thin line of disapproval. "Our name was on the contracts," she added matter-of-factly. "Legally, we had every right." From the armchair, my younger sister Olivia looked up from her phone with that smirk she'd perfected since high school. "The caterer, too," she offered helpfully, "and the photographer. Oh, and the florist." The room tilted slightly as the full weight of their betrayal registered. 8 months of planning. The dress I'd fallen in love with. The photographer we'd interviewed 6 different candidates to find. The menu Nathan and I had spent hours perfecting. The flowers that reminded me of my grandmother's garden. All of it gone. Without my knowledge, without my consent. 3 weeks before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My name is Victoria. I'm 23 and secretly running a billion-dollar hospitality empire. This is the story of how I taught my family that some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. I took a measured breath. "You canceled my entire wedding without telling me?" "We're telling you now," my father said, clearly pleased with himself. "Consider it a favor. You'll thank us later when you find someone more suitable." "Someone who can afford you," my mother repeated, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she adjusted her cashmere sweater. I searched each of their faces. Dad's stern disapproval, Mom's cold judgment, Olivia's amused contempt. These people had raised me, supposedly loved me, and now they were dismantling the most important day of my life like it was a failed business venture. The irony was suffocating. They had no idea that their daughter, the one they thought was just struggling along like most recent graduates, had built Phoenix Hospitality Group from nothing, starting with a single property I'd purchased at 19, with money I'd made developing apps in college. 4 years of 18-hour workdays had resulted in 17 luxury venues across 3 states, including the Belmont estate, the exact venue where my wedding was supposed to take place. I'd let them believe I was just another struggling graduate living paycheck to paycheck while I quietly amassed a $2.8 billion empire. I had carefully created a separate persona, Victoria Phoenix professionally, Victoria Jackson personally, maintaining separate phone numbers, email accounts, and even having my mail delivered to a P.O. box to keep my 2 worlds apart. It was easier than explaining how I'd turned a coding hobby into a tech company, sold it for $12 million at 19, and immediately invested everything into real estate. But now they'd crossed a line. "Understood," I said simply. The word hung in the air. They'd expected tears, arguments, pleading. Instead, I gave them nothing. "Good," Dad said. "Now you can focus on finding someone more appropriate." "Someone who won't embarrass the family," Mom added. I nodded and walked toward the door. "Victoria," Olivia called out, "don't be dramatic about this. It's for your own good." I paused with my hand on the doorknob. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm being practical." And I left. The drive back to my apartment was surreal. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "Hey babe, just confirmed final head count with the caterer. 127 guests. Can't wait to marry you in 3 weeks." My heart twisted. Nathan had no idea what had just happened. He was probably at his office right now, excited about our future, completely unaware that my family had just blown up our wedding. I needed to call him, but first I had a few other calls to make. I pulled into my apartment complex and sat in my car for a moment, staring at the gleaming Phoenix Hospitality Group headquarters, visible in the distance across the river, in the business district where my family rarely ventured. I dialed my assistant's number. "Sam, it's Victoria. I need you to pull the Belmont contracts immediately." "The Belmont estate? Your wedding venue?" "Yes, and I need you to review the cancellation policies we have in place for deposits." There was a pause. "Victoria, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. I just need to understand our options for unusual circumstances." "Of course. I'll have everything ready in an hour." My next call was to my head of legal, David. "It's Victoria. Hypothetical question. If someone canceled a booking at one of our venues using forged authorization, what would our legal recourse be?" "Well, that would be fraud. We'd be looking at potential criminal charges plus civil damages." "Why?" "Just curious about our protections. Can you send me the specific statutes?" "Absolutely. You sound stressed. Is Phoenix Hospitality facing some kind of legal challenge?" "Nothing like that, just being thorough." After I hung up, I allowed myself exactly 60 seconds to feel the full weight of what had happened. The betrayal, the humiliation, the casual cruelty of people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Then I got out of the car and went upstairs to plan my response. The next morning, I was reviewing property reports when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" "Victoria, what the hell is going on?" It was Dad, and he was screaming. "Good morning to you, too," I said calmly. "The venue just called me. They're saying they can't refund our deposits because the owner personally canceled our refund. They're saying you canceled it." I took a sip of my coffee, savoring the rich flavor as I gazed out my office window. Through the glass, I could see the Belmont estate in the distance, its elegant grounds sprawling across 40 acres of pristine lakefront property. That's interesting. Interesting? Victoria, this is $7,500 we're talking about. They're saying the owner specifically requested that the Jackson family receive no refund under any circumstances. Help me understand. What did you do? What did I do? I called to confirm our cancellation and get our deposit back. They said they reviewed the contract and found no grounds for a refund. When I asked to speak to a manager, they transferred me to someone who said they had direct orders from Victoria Phoenix herself. I didn't cause any scene, Dad. Then why are they saying this? The venue manager kept talking about direct orders from ownership and non-negotiable policies. I leaned back in my chair. I didn't tell them anything they didn't already know. That's not an answer, Victoria. You need to fix this right now. Call them back and straighten this out. I don't think I can do that. What do you mean you can't? The owner's decision is final. There was a long pause. Victoria, how do you know what the owner decided? Lucky guess. This isn't funny. We need that money back. Do you have any idea how much $7,500 is? I almost laughed. Dad was having a breakdown over $7,500 while sitting 3 miles away from my corporate headquarters where I'd signed a $340 million acquisition deal just last week. It's probably not that much money to the owner, I said. I imagine they make that in about 6 minutes. Victoria, what are you talking about? How could you possibly know? His voice cut off abruptly. Dad, you still there? Victoria. His voice had changed. Quieter now, uncertain. Victoria, what's the name of the company that owns the Belmont estate? Why do you ask? Just tell me. Phoenix Hospitality Group. Silence. Dad? Victoria. Victoria, what's your last name? Legally, it's still Jackson, but professionally, I go by Victoria Phoenix. The phone was so quiet, I thought he'd hung up. Dad, are you... Victoria Phoenix? You're Victoria Phoenix? That's right. The Victoria Phoenix? The one who owns, who built... Oh my God, oh my God. I heard him calling to Mom in the background. Catherine, get in here right now. What's wrong, Robert? Mom's voice was distant but audible. Victoria's Victoria Phoenix. What are you talking about? Victoria Phoenix, the businesswoman, the one who bought the Riverside Mall, the one who owns half the venues in the city. That's our Victoria. I heard Mom gasp. Victoria! Dad's voice was back, shaky now. Victoria, sweetheart, there's been a misunderstanding. Has there? Yes, a huge misunderstanding. We had no idea you were so successful. Why didn't you tell us? You never asked. But Victoria, we assumed... You assumed I was a failure. Not a failure, just struggling like most people your age. Most people my age don't own $2.8 billion in real estate assets. I heard something crash in the background, probably Mom fainting. Victoria, listen to me very carefully. Dad's voice had shifted into his business mode. We can fix this. We can call the venue back and... The venue you already canceled? Yes, we can uncancel it. We can reinstate everything, the whole wedding. With what money? What do you mean? Well, you said you couldn't afford it, that it was beyond your means, that I needed to find someone who could afford me. Victoria, that was before we knew. Before you knew I could pay for it myself? Yes, exactly. I stood up and walked to my window. Down below, I could see the Belmont Estates event coordinator setting up for a corporate retreat. My corporate retreat. Dad, let me ask you something. If I were still just regular Victoria, living in my apartment and driving my old Honda, would you have reconsidered? Pause. Would you have called me this morning and said, you know what, Victoria, we were wrong. We love you and want you to be happy regardless of money. Longer pause. Would you have apologized for humiliating me in front of Mom and Olivia? For canceling the most important day of my life without even discussing it with me first? Victoria, please. The answer is no, Dad. You would have let me stay heartbroken and weddingless, and you would have felt good about it. Responsible, like you taught me a valuable lesson about living within my means. That's not. We were trying to help. You were trying to control me, just like you've always done. I heard Mom's voice in the background. Give me the phone. Victoria, honey, it's Mom. Sweetheart, there's been a terrible miscommunication here. Has there? Yes, we had no idea about your business success. We're so proud of you. Are you proud of the business or proud of the money? Both. Victoria, you're our daughter. We've always been proud. Yesterday, you told me to find someone who could afford me. What changed? Well, now we know that I can afford myself. Silence. Mom, let me save you some time. I'm not reinstating the wedding. I'm not giving you your deposits back, and I'm not pretending this conversation never happened. Victoria, you're being unreasonable. I'm being exactly as reasonable as you were yesterday. I heard Olivia's voice in the background. Is she serious? She's actually not giving us the money back? Put Olivia on the phone, I said. Victoria, I don't think... Put her on. Fine, here's Olivia. Hey, Victoria. Olivia's voice was carefully neutral. So, this is weird. Hi, Olivia. I had no idea you were like rich. I'm comfortable. Comfortable? Victoria, you own half the city. Not half, maybe 30%. This is insane. Why didn't you ever say anything? Would it have mattered? What do you mean? Yesterday, you recorded my fiancé throwing keys in a lake and posted it on social media. You called my wedding plans stupid and said I was wasting money on excessive things. Would you have done that if you'd known I was wealthy? Well, no, probably not. So you're only nice to people who have money? That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant, Olivia. You treated me like garbage because you thought I was poor. Now you want to be best friends because you found out I'm rich. Victoria, come on. How many social media posts did you make mocking my cheap lifestyle? Pause. Olivia, how many times did you joke about my car, my apartment, my job? That was just sister stuff. Put Dad back on. Victoria, wait. Put him on. Dad's voice returned, subdued now. Victoria, we need to talk about this face to face. No, we don't. Yes, we do. We're family. This is family business. Family doesn't cancel each other's weddings out of spite. It wasn't spite. We genuinely thought, you thought wrong about everything. I heard him take a deep breath. Victoria, what do you want? What will it take to fix this? There's nothing to fix, Dad. You made your position clear. I'm just respecting it. Our position was based on incomplete information. Your position was based on the assumption that I was worthless. Now that you know I'm not, you want to change the rules. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? Having your parents cancel your wedding because they think you're not good enough for their standards. Victoria, please. I have to go. I have a board meeting. Victoria, wait. What about Nathan? What about your wedding? I smiled. What about it? Are you still getting married? Of course. Where? Same place, same date, same time. But how can you? We canceled everything. You canceled the booking that was in your name. You never had any authority over the booking in mine. Silence. There are 2 contracts for the Belmont estate on September 15th, I explained. The one you signed as the paying party, and the one I signed as the property owner. You know how weddings work at exclusive venues like Belmont. A holding deposit from the family, separate from the venue's own internal reservation. You canceled yours. Mine is still active. You mean... I mean, my wedding is happening exactly as planned. The only difference is that you're not invited. Victoria. And neither is Mom or Olivia. You can't uninvite your family from your wedding. Watch me. I hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off. An hour later, Sam knocked on my office door. Victoria, there are some people here to see you. They say they're your family. I looked up from my laptop. Tell security to escort them off the property. Are you sure? Positive. 20 minutes after that, my personal phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Babe, your dad just called me. He's very upset. He says there's been some kind of family emergency about the wedding. Should I be worried? I called him immediately. Nathan. Hi, Victoria. What's going on? Your dad sounded like he was having a breakdown. It's a long story. Can you come over tonight? I need to tell you something. Of course. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I'll explain everything. That evening, I told Nathan the whole story about Phoenix Hospitality Group, about the $2.8 billion empire I'd built in secret, about my family's betrayal and their frantic attempts to backtrack once they learned the truth. He listened without interrupting, his expression cycling through confusion, amazement, and finally anger. They canceled our wedding because they thought you were poor, he said finally. Essentially, yes. And now they want back in because they found out you're wealthy. That's the general idea. He shook his head. Victoria, that's horrible. I'm sorry I never told you about the business. I wanted to be sure you loved me for me, not for what I could provide. After seeing how money changed people's perceptions of me during college, I decided to keep my professional and personal lives completely separate. Are you kidding? I'm not upset about the money. I'm upset about how they treated you. He took my hands. Victoria, you're getting married in 3 weeks. You should have your family there. They made their choice. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Nathan. This was who they really are when they think no one important is watching. He was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? I want to marry you at the Belmont estate, surrounded by people who actually care about us. I want to start our life together without the toxic influence of people who only value me when I can benefit them. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The next morning, I drafted a formal letter to my family. It was delivered by courier at 9 a.m. sharp. Dear Dad, Mom, and Olivia, thank you for clarifying your feelings about my life choices and my value as a family member. Your decision to cancel my wedding without consultation has saved me years of wondering whether you truly supported my happiness or simply tolerated it when convenient. Please consider this my formal notice that you are no longer invited to participate in my wedding or any future life events. This decision is final and non-negotiable. For the record, I built Phoenix Hospitality Group from nothing while living in that tiny apartment you all mocked. I worked 18-hour days for 4 years to create something meaningful, while you assumed I was simply failing to meet your standards. The fact that you now want to celebrate my success after trying to sabotage my happiness tells me everything I need to know about your character. Nathan and I will be married as planned on September 15th. We will build our life together surrounded by people who value integrity over wealth and love over status. I wish you well in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Victoria Phoenix, CEO, Phoenix Hospitality Group. The wedding was perfect. Nathan and I exchanged vows on the terrace overlooking the lake, surrounded by 127 people who genuinely cared about our future. My college roommate, Megan, served as maid of honor. Nathan's brother, Daniel, was his best man. I had handled all the vendor bookings personally, making sure everyone knew to expect payment directly from Phoenix Hospitality Group rather than the Jackson family. The flowers were exactly what I'd dreamed of, white roses and baby's breath that reminded me of my grandmother's garden. During the reception, as I danced with my new husband under lights strung between ancient oak trees, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years around my family. Pure, uncomplicated joy. My phone, tucked away in the bridal suite, had 47 missed calls and 23 voicemails from various family members. I deleted them all without listening. 6 months later, I received a formal apology letter from Dad. It was 3 pages long and mentioned my impressive business acumen 14 times. He requested a meeting to discuss our family's future relationship. Dad had gotten my corporate address from public business records after I'd blocked his emails and changed my personal number. I sent back a single sentence: "Some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt." A year after that, Olivia reached out through LinkedIn asking if Phoenix Hospitality Group had any entry-level marketing positions available. The message included a lengthy explanation about how much she'd grown as a person and how sorry she was for not recognizing my incredible achievements sooner. I forwarded her resume to our HR department with a note: "Please file under Do Not Hire." Today, Nathan and I live in a beautiful home overlooking the lake, about 10 minutes from the Belmont estate. We've been happily married for 3 years now. We host dinner parties for friends who knew us when we were just a nonprofit worker and a girl with a laptop building dreams in a tiny apartment. Sometimes I'll drive past my parents' house on the way to a business meeting. Their cars are older now, their lawn less perfectly maintained. I've heard through mutual acquaintances that Dad's investment firm suffered significant losses during the market downturn last year, forcing him to lay off half his staff. Mom has started working part-time at a boutique to help with expenses after they had to downsize their lifestyle. I feel no satisfaction in their struggles, but I feel no guilt about their absence from my life either. They taught me an invaluable lesson about unconditional love. It's only unconditional if it doesn't depend on your bank account, your career success, or your ability to meet someone else's definition of worth. My wedding was exactly the joyful celebration they tried to prevent, a beautiful ceremony celebrating two people who chose each other without conditions. And I paid for every penny of it. Before you go, here's a quick offer for you. If you love learning and growing like I do, you might enjoy audiobooks. There's a special deal with Audible. Your first month completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles at no cost to you. All the details are in the description below.